Welcome to Reflect with Ed Fassio. Get ready to experience one of the world's first 100% digitally generated podcasts, where we take a step back, dive deep, and strive to learn new things. Join us as we unpack thought-provoking ideas, personal reflections, and inspiring stories to help you stay in the know. Reflect is brought to you by the minds at ByteBrain and powered by emerging technologies from Google, HeyGen, OpenAI, and 11 Labs. Thanks for tuning in. Now, relax and prepare to reflect.
Wow, talk about a deep dive.
We're wading into AI today. And
Let me tell you, this research pile is impressive.
it seems like AI is poised to touch everything and everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, that includes you.
So captivating right now is that AI's gone from science fiction to our smartphones practically overnight.
Okay.
The sheer speed of this evolution is what makes this deep dive so important.
Let's break this down.
We're talking about shaping the future, not just observing it.
This isn't just about robots and self-driving cars anymore, is it?
We've got research here on AI in healthcare.
Finance.
Yeah.
Even concerns about it being used as a weapon.
Really is.
It's a lot to unpack.
That report from Humanities and Social Sciences Communications really stood out to me.
They weren't just focused on the tech itself.
But on the potential for massive shifts in power dynamics.
So it's like a global game changer.
Politically, you name it.
I mean, we knew AI was a big deal.
Precisely.
But this is next level.
And that's why the legal landscape is struggling to keep up.
Remember that Harvard Law Review piece about the New York Times suing OpenAI?
The ChatGPT folks.
Right.
That perfectly illustrates the tension we're seeing.
It's like AI learned to write a screenplay before anyone figured out who owns the copyright.
Wild.
Exactly.
And it gets even trickier when you consider that AI models are trained on massive data sets.
Text code, images, the works.
And speaking of swirling...
So there are huge questions about intellectual property rights swirling around.
Remember that IBM article listing the top 10 risks of AI?
Cybersecurity, threats, bias, and algorithms.
They even mentioned existential risks.
Now, I'm not usually one for doomsday scenarios.
And that caught my eye.
It's easy to dismiss the extreme cases.
But even AI experts are grappling with these what-if scenarios.
It's like, sure, we might not have killer robots tomorrow,
Okay, point taken.
but what about in a decade?
But before we go full sci-fi...
The fact that these questions are being raised at all speaks volumes about the potential magnitude here.
Let's reel it back in.
A lot of this boils down to governance.
Right? I mean, several sources, including a policy briefing on the EU AI Act,
Emphasize giving everyday people a voice in shaping AI regulations.
absolutely.
This idea of affected persons kept popping up.
It's the recognition that AI's impact isn't limited to Silicon Valley.
Right, this isn't just about the geeks and the governments anymore.
It's about considering the rights and concerns of everyone potentially touched by AI systems.
Which is pretty much everyone.
But if we're talking about shaping the future,
We need to understand how this stuff actually works.
that AI textbook, the one by Stuart Russell and Peter Norvig,
Really got into the nitty-gritty.
it's used in over 1,500 schools.
Oh, absolutely.
So you know it's legit.
What struck me about that book was its emphasis on the sheer complexity of AI systems.
It's not just lines of code.
It's about mimicking how humans think and learn,
It's like trying to write a rule book for a game whose rules change every time you play.
which is no small feat. And that complexity makes ethical development and oversight infinitely more challenging.
Speaking of tricky,
That Rethink Priorities survey revealed that the public is actually pretty savvy about AI risks.
they're not just blindly buying into the hype.
It was surprising, right?
The majority of people supported AI regulation and were concerned about potential downsides,
Even if they also saw potential for good.
which makes sense.
It seems like people are sensing the magnitude of what's at stake.
I mean, this technology could reshape the world as we know it.
But shaping it, for better or worse.
That's the million-dollar question.
Okay, so it's clear we're on the edge of something massive, but what does that actually look like?
What are the concrete ways this AI revolution could play out?
Let's go back to that Stanford HAI report.
They highlighted some amazing breakthroughs in AI's ability to process language, understand images, even recognize patterns better than humans in some cases.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
There's real potential here, too.
Absolutely.
Imagine medical diagnoses made with incredible accuracy.
Treatments tailored to your specific DNA. New drug discoveries happening at warp speed.
We're talking about potentially eradicating diseases, improving quality of life across the board.
Wow, that's a powerful vision.
But earlier we touched on AI being used as a weapon.
That's a chilling thought, to say the least.
It is.
And unfortunately, it's not just theoretical.
Think about autonomous weapons systems, for example.
We're already seeing AI being integrated into military technologies, which raises all sorts of ethical questions.
I mean, ethical dilemmas seem to be a recurring theme here.
Like, who's responsible when an AI system makes a mistake?
That IBM article talked about the need for explainable AI.
But honestly, that whole concept makes my head spin a little.
It's complex stuff.
But that's exactly why that article stressed the importance of transparency.
If we don't understand how these systems work, how can we trust them to make life or death decisions?
Whether it's about healthcare or, well, warfare.
It's a huge challenge.
And not just for engineers and programmers.
This goes back to what we were saying about the public needing a voice.
If AI is going to touch every aspect of our lives, we all need some level of AI literacy.
Right, absolutely.
That policy briefing on the EU AI Act really drove that point home.
They weren't just talking about regulating the technology itself,
But also about educating the public, empowering people to engage in informed discussions about AI's role in society.
It's like we need a crash course in AI for, well, everyone.
But back to the here and now.
That World Economic Forum article talked about the need for risk mitigation strategies.
What exactly does that look like?
Do we have any good examples?
It's multifaceted.
They discuss technical solutions.
Like using something called likelihood-free importance weighting to reduce bias in AI's output.
Imagine an AI system helping judges make sentencing decisions.
You'd want to make sure it wasn't unfairly biased against certain groups, right?
Okay, so reducing bias is one thing.
This technique could help with that.
But what about those existential risks we talked about?
The possibility of AI becoming too powerful, even surpassing human intelligence.
That still feels like the plot of a sci-fi movie, to be honest.
It does.
But remember what that IBM article said?
Even though these risks might seem far-fetched, we can't just ignore them.
They suggested staying informed about cutting-edge AI research, building robust tech infrastructure, and constantly upskilling our workforce.
It's like prepping for an earthquake.
You hope it never happens, but you still need to have an emergency plan just in case.
Exactly.
And that preparation goes beyond just the technical aspects.
We need to be thinking about the ethical and societal implications as well.
This brings us back to that fascinating question about AI consciousness that we touched on earlier.
If AI can learn and reason like humans, could it eventually develop self-awareness?
Whoa, that takes us down a whole other rabbit hole.
Could it have feelings even?
I have to admit, I'm both fascinated and a little freaked out by that idea.
I get it.
It's a mind-bending concept.
And honestly, we don't have any definitive answers yet.
But that's part of what makes this deep dive so compelling.
We're grappling with questions that humanity has pondered for centuries, but now they're becoming increasingly urgent.
It's like we're not just shaping the future of technology, but the future of what it means to be human.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We've talked about the potential benefits of AI, like revolutionizing healthcare and
Solving complex problems.
but also the risks from job displacement to...
The truly unknown territory of superintelligent AI.
It feels like we're standing at the foot of this enormous mountain, not sure if we should climb it or run in the other direction.
That's a great analogy.
And honestly, there's no easy answer.
This isn't like flipping a switch.
And speaking of navigating,
It's more like navigating a vast, uncharted landscape.
we keep coming back to this idea of responsible AI development.
We're writing the map as we go, and there are bound to be surprises along the way.
It sounds great on paper, but how do we actually make sure that happens?
It feels like a pretty big task.
It is a monumental task, no doubt.
But it starts with acknowledging that we're not just building algorithms.
We're shaping the future. And that future should be guided by human values, not just technological progress.
It's about more than just lines of code.
It's about considering the ethical implications.
The societal impacts the whole shebang.
Exactly.
Remember that World Health Organization guidance on using AI in healthcare?
It wasn't just about the technical possibilities.
But also about ensuring equitable access to these advancements.
Right, because not everyone has equal access to...
They stress the importance of transparency, accountability, making sure these technologies benefit everyone, not just a select few.
technology or even information.
So part of this is making sure the benefits of AI are shared widely.
And not just concentrated in the hands of a powerful few.
Precisely.
And that requires proactive efforts to bridge the digital divide, to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to participate in this AI-powered future, not just those with the most resources.
It's about democratizing AI,
Yep.
not letting it exacerbate existing inequalities.
Okay, that makes sense.
But how do we do that?
How do we make sure AI doesn't just become another tool for those already in power?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
It requires a multi-pronged approach,
We need strong regulations, of course,
but also ethical frameworks that guide AI development and deployment.
and crucially, we need open, informed public discourse.
We all have a role to play here, from demanding transparency from tech companies to educating ourselves about the potential impacts of AI,
So it's not just about the tech itself,
but about how we choose to use it.
how we govern it, and how we prepare ourselves for the changes it will bring.
Absolutely.
We can't just sit back and let the future happen to us.
We have agency, we have a voice, and we have the power to shape this technology in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
Wow, this has been quite a deep dive.
From the potential of AI to cure diseases to the philosophical questions about consciousness.
We've covered a lot of ground.
So where do we go from here?
What can our listeners do to stay engaged with this rapidly evolving field?
That's the key. Stay engaged.
Don't shy away from the complexity.
Read articles, follow experts on social media, and most importantly, never stop asking questions.
The future of AI isn't predetermined. It's being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping that story.
Beautifully said.
So to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of AI.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those questions coming.
Until next time.